The Forestry mod, which is included in many mod packs including Direwolf 20 and FTB Infinity, introduces the multi-farm, a multi-block structure capable of automating most Minecraft horticultural practices, including but not limited to laying down soil for farms, tilling said soil, planting seeds, saplings, and other plants, and harvesting wood, vegetables, mushrooms, and other farming related goods. A multi-farm setup is cheap, efficient, and an important part of any FTB enterprise. This video will cover everything that you need to know to get started. The first thing we'll cover in this video is the structural anatomy of the multi-farm. What you see here is a slice of a multi-farm which illustrates its basic anatomy. It is composed of a 3x3x4 column of farming blocks and a planting bed. The planting bed can be constructed on any one of the 4 levels that the farming block column occupies, but I recommend building it on the 3rd layer for reasons that I will discuss later. The quartz structure, which you see below, is one of several possible planting bed layouts. This is the smallest one, but it is still capable of producing up to several thousand wood per hour. So while larger setups are possible, and I will include a link to those layouts in the description, I think that they are largely unnecessary, so we'll stick to this one for now. Alright, so now that we've covered some of the general and more theoretical stuff, let's actually go ahead and just assemble this multi-farm, because it's quite easy to do and quite quick as well. So the first thing you want to do is lay down your 3x3x4 farm block column, and once you've done that, on the 3rd level, start laying out 4 arms, 1 arm on each face of the farming column. These arms should be 9 blocks in length. Now once you have laid out these arms, you want to jump on top and create diagonals connecting the arms to each other. These diagonals should be a 45-degree line, so you're just doing a 1-2, 1-2 zigzag, nice and clean, and do that for every single arm. Once you have finished creating these zigzags, you need to fill in the rest of the planting bed with the blocks that you're using, and you do need to use a specific type of material, which will be covered momentarily. And once you've finished filling everything in, we're basically ready to move on to some of the crafting recipes and some of the more detailed stuff. So I'll see you in just a moment. Before we move on to farming blocks, I think it's worth noting that both the planting bed and the farming blocks themselves can be made of several different materials that will result in a cosmetic change but have no functional difference. The valid materials are stone bricks, chiseled stone bricks, cracked stone bricks, mossy stone bricks, smooth sandstone, chiseled sandstone, clay bricks, nether bricks, quartz blocks, chiseled quartz blocks, and quartz block pillars. Basically, any one of the materials that could be described as fancy stones. Let's quickly cover some of the required recipes that you will need when constructing the multi-farm. All of these blocks will be used in the 3x3x4 column that I described earlier, and they can all be crafted using a crafting table. The most basic of these blocks, the farm block, is crafted using 2 bronze ingots, 2 slabs of wood, a tin electron tube, and stone bricks or any one of the previously aforementioned materials. The farm block does not add any functionality to the multi-farm, but it just exists as kind of a placeholder in that 3x3x4 column. Next up, we have the farm valve, and this can be crafted using a farm block, 2 pieces of glass, and a tin gear. The role of the farm valve is to accept fluids into the system. Next, we have the farm gearbox, and this is crafted using a farm block and 3 tin gears. The farm gearbox accepts power into the system. Here we have the farm control, which is crafted using a farm block, a golden electron tube, and 2 redstone dust. And the role of the farm control is to determine which one of the fields on the farm are currently active. By default, they're all on, so this block is effectively optional. And finally, we have the farm hatch, which is crafted using a farm block, 2 tin gears, and a trap door. The farm hatch is how one inputs and outputs items from the system. All of these blocks are essentially interchangeable in that 3x3x4 column, but we'll go into a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. Okay, now before we move on to constructing the multi-farm, I also just want to quickly cover how to create the electron tubes, because in addition to the farming blocks requiring some electron tubes, you'll also see later down the line you need different types of electron tubes while configuring the farm. To craft the electron tubes, you will need a thermionic fabricator, and to use the thermionic fabricator, you take the items and you place the pattern in this panel here. You need to place glass in the upper left panel, and then you actually need to place the items into this inventory. Once you've done that, you can just click here and you'll see that it crafts all of the items that you need, and that's all it is. The electron tubes all follow the same basic recipe, which is 3 vertical ingots here and 3 horizontal ingots here for a total of 5 ingots, plus 2 redstone dusts, and of course the glass that's required by the thermionic fabricator. And you'll see why we need the different types of electron tubes when we talk about configuring the farm. If you don't have a thermionic fabricator, you can craft one using a crafting table, and to do that you'll need a sturdy casing, a couple gold ingots, a chest, and some glass. And to create the sturdy casing, all you need is a whole bunch of bronze in a square like this, similar to how you would construct a chest, and you can do that on a crafting table. Alright, so now that we've covered all of the crafting recipes for the blocks that you will need to create the multi-farm, we can actually talk about constructing the multi-farm. So here we are underneath the quartz structure, the planting bed that you saw earlier, and over here is the 3x3x4 farm block column, and you can see it does extend one above the planting bed, so it is 4 tall. Now, no matter what you do, you have to maintain these dimensions, 3x3x4, and you can create the column using any combination of farm blocks and accessory component pieces, so long as it keeps that 3x3x4 dimension. Now, let's talk about some of the rules that govern all of these component blocks and kind of what they're used for. So starting out, we've got the farm control, and what the farm control does is it tells the machine which fields should be currently active, and by default all of your fields will be active. The multi-farm breaks the farm up into 4 different fields, 4 quadrants, and each one of these block faces represents one field, and it corresponds directionally. So for example, this is the southern side of the block, and that will correspond to the southern field on the farm. If you want to disable one field for whatever reason, all you need to do is apply a redstone current to that block face, or alternatively, you can disable all of the fields by applying a redstone current to the bottom face of the farm controller. Next, we have the farm gearbox, and this accepts power into the system. It's not terribly power intensive, but it does require a constant source of power. So here I've got a capacitor bank and an energy conduit, but you can power it however you like. Just keep in mind it uses redstone flux. Now over here we've got the farm hatches. Now the farm hatches are how you input and output items from the farm system, and like the farm control, it does matter which block face you use. So over here you can see I've got some Buildcraft pipes hooked up to the bottom face of the farm hatch, and what this will do is it will extract any item that the farm has harvested, so any wood or crops or seeds or saplings and so on that the farm has produced, these pipes will extract. Now if we take a look up top, we've got another farm hatch over here, but this hopper is planted and facing the top face of the block. And the reason that we have this here is because if you input items from the top face, such as dirt or saplings, these will go into these 2 panels, or this panel over here, which is for fertilizer, and these are the items that the farm needs to function. Whereas these bottom ones would pull out from these 2 panels, which hold the items that the farm has produced. Next, we have the farm valve, and the only purpose that the farm valve serves is to provide water to the farm. This is a necessary component, and every single multi-farm will need one. You can just use buckets of water to hydrate your farm, but that's not very efficient. I think a much better way is to use an aqueous accumulator, which is included in the thermal expansion mod, or if you don't have the thermal expansion mod, even though it is included in most FTB packs, you can use some kind of pump or whatever other method you would like to transport water. If it's working, you'll see that you have water filled up. And the way to confirm that you have set up this column correctly is if you right click it and this GUI appears, you are in good shape. Now to craft the aqueous accumulator, we can come over here and you'll see that you need a basic machine frame, a pneumatic servo, 2 bronze gears, and 2 pieces of glass. Oh, and excuse me, copper gears, not bronze gears. And here are the crafting recipes for each of the component pieces. So for the pneumatic servo, you'll need some glass, some redstone dust, some iron ingots. For the basic machine frame, you'll need a tin gear, some iron ingots, and some glass. And then if you don't know how to make the gears, it's just 4 of whatever ingot plus 1 iron ingot in the center, and that will produce the gears. And one quick note about constructing your farm block column, that 3x3x4 column, is that any one of the component pieces can be placed on any level except for the 3rd layer. And this is why I suggest creating your planting bed on the 3rd layer, just because if you do it on any of the other layers, it'll probably obstruct some of your components. And so this is the best way and really the optimal way to set up your farming column. Now that you've constructed your 3x3x4 farm block column and your planting bed, you're going to need to craft a couple more items. This time you're going to use a carpenter, which is a machine block added by the Forestry mod, to create a soldering iron and an intricate circuit. And we'll need these to configure our farm. So you can see on the right hand side is the recipe for the intricate circuit, and that requires 3 gold ingots and 6 redstone dust. And on the left hand side, the soldering iron requires 3 iron ingots and 1 bronze ingot. And to use the carpenter, first you'll need to fill it with water, and you can do that just by using a water bucket. It doesn't require too much water. And you'll also need a constant supply of RF power. To actually craft the items is very similar to the thermionic fabricator, where you'll draw the pattern in this top left panel up here, and then you'll actually add the components to the inventory, and then you'll see it begins to craft the item. And in just a moment you'll see that we'll have crafted the soldering iron, and here we go. And now it's taken the items out, crafted the items, and created our soldering iron. And the same process is used in the intricate circuit. Now to create the carpenter, if you don't have one, you need 6 bronze ingots, 2 pieces of glass, and a sturdy casing, which, if you'll remember, is just 8 ingots like this. And you can create it on the crafting table. Alright, now that you've constructed a soldering iron and an intricate circuit board, we can configure the circuit board to select which type of fields we would like to have on the farm. To do this, right click while the soldering iron is in your hand, and then navigate to the managed farm page, and you'll see that we have 4 slots here that say no effect, and a panel where we are able to drop our intricate circuit board. So let's do that. Now each one of these different types of electron tubes corresponds to a different type of field. The copper electron tube corresponds to an arboretum, which grows trees. The tin electron tube corresponds to a peat bog, which produces peat, which can be used as biofuel. The bronze electron tube corresponds to a crop farm, which produces wheat. The iron electron tube is a vegetable farm, and that can produce carrots or potatoes. The blazing electron tube is a nether wort farm and produces nether wort. And the apatine electron tube is a mushroom farm and produces mushrooms. And some of these require different types of dirt, and all of them of course require different types of inputs. For example, the tree farm, the arboretum, requires saplings. The shroom farm requires requires mushrooms and mycelium. The peat bog requires dirt and, well, yeah, that's all fine. But in any case, to configure this, take these tubes and drop them into these slots here. And you want to be careful because you'll notice that even though it lists them over here, the second that we drop our final electron tube in, it'll automatically craft the circuit board with the new traits, so you don't get a chance to confirm. So make sure you do it right the first time because these are some pretty expensive crafted items. Once you've configured your circuit board, go to your 3x3x4 farm block column and right click on it to open up the GUI, and take your circuit board and drop it onto this panel. And then when you mouse over it, you'll see the different types of fields that you have configured. You'll also see these panels here, and they'll describe the type of field that you have set up. Once you do it, you won't be able to remove the circuit board from the farm. So make sure you do it right the first time because there's really no going back unless you want to recraft everything, and it does get quite expensive after a while. Alright, so now that you've configured your farm as you would like, there's one more item that you need to craft, and that's fertilizer. Now, the way that you make fertilizer is by taking an apatite crystal, which can be found by mining on most layers on the earth. Oftentimes you'll find very large clusters of it on bare rock faces in the extreme hills. At least that's where I like to go to find mine. And you'll need to combine that with sand. Now the fertilizer does need to be replaced when it's used up, but it is used slowly. A stack of 64 lasts a small farm like this maybe 7 to 10 hours, kind of depending on what you're growing. Now, just to demonstrate how these crystal chests work, we can go and sort of throw these things in that we're going to need. So we'll throw in some dirt, we'll throw in some bog earth because I've got a peat bog, the fertilizer, and some carrots because we're growing carrots on our vegetable farm, some hill cherry saplings for our tree farm, and so on. And you'll see that they're draining into here and they're populating the farm. Now, right now, the farm is disabled, but if we come over here and enable it by removing the redstone current from the controller, momentarily you will see the farm kicking off and coming to life. There you go. So now it's planting, and this is not actually just dirt, this is actually humus, and sometimes it does miss blocks, but it will populate it kind of in subsequent passes. And it's planting all of the cherry saplings, and I'll just leave it on for a moment so that you can see what it does. Anyways, I mean, that's really all that I wanted to cover in this video. The one thing that I forgot to mention is that this farm is a really good way to get rubber in the early game. What you can do is you can grow IC2 rubber trees and then take that wood and drop it into an extractor to produce rubber. During the early game, rubber is often one of those resources that really constrains you because of how time consuming it is to produce, and so you end up doing all sorts of bizarre things like cramming all of your machines into a little corner to really skimp on that wiring. But in general, the farm can only grow plants from either vanilla Minecraft or from the Forestry mod, so most of the plants introduced by Biomes of Plenty and Botania won't work with it, unfortunately. But, you know, that's just the way things are. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, or maybe if you run into some problems, leave a message down below, or just send someone to me privately. I don't really care which one, and I'll see if I can get back to you. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I had tons of fun making it like usual, and that's all from me. Peace.